Hello, John Cartier. Hope you're doing well. I didn't notice. Yeah, I'll say it. I didn't really feel like streaming for the past few days because, well, what a depressing. I mean, what a sad. I wouldn't say it's sad, but I mean, let's face it. The result we had in Brazil, it really does yell, this is the end of the championship. Max is too good to lose a championship like this. He's been there and done it before. And of course, with the US election that just came past, it just seems like, oh my God. I just couldn't help but end up making so many comparisons to Lando and who ended up losing that election because it just felt like, yeah, you can sit and say what you want about Max Verstappen and Donald Trump, but you've got to take responsibility for how you screwed up, to be honest. Like, you can't, I mean, my word, I mean, McLaren, God, I really want McLaren to wake up. I don't know if they will. And if they don't wake up, then I'm just going to hope the likes of Ferrari, Mercedes, and maybe Aston Martin get their act together next year, because otherwise we're going to get 5 Max Verstappen World Championships. And I mean, the viewing figures for the last 3 races of the season, unfortunately, are going to drop. Okay, the first race being in Las Vegas is not going to get many views because it's going to be held at like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock UK, Europe time. I don't know whether people in Asia really like to watch F1 as much as they used to. I mean, they're going to be like, what, 5 to 8 hours ahead of us? Hello there, hello there, Chris. I hope you're doing well from Poland. Apologies if I can't pronounce your name because me being British and all that. I don't want to be out here butchering people's names. I mean, I was thinking about it on Twitter, like, I literally went out my way and said, Lando Norris is a charity shop worker committing fraud, pretending to be a championship contender. And, you know, if he carries on like this, he won't win a world championship as long as taxes exist outside of Monaco. I mean, there's some truth in that because Lando didn't know the rules about, was it, the yellow flights at the start line. He was not, I mean, he kept being caught out by the safety car, the restart, just... It's just the gap between Max and a lot of drivers is so big now. Max is just so much more aware of his surroundings, the regulations, how things work, the procedures involved. It's not just Lando I can criticise though. I mean, there's a lot of drivers who seem to be so unaware when it comes to rules. Oh yeah, happy Polish National Day as well, yeah. Didn't know about that, but I hope it's a great celebration there in Poland. And then, of course, you get Max Verstappen, who... I think the reason why Max can get away with driving like the way he did at Mexico is because even if you give him a 20-second penalty, a black flag or whatever, or even a race ban, none of his competitors will ever truly take advantage of any penalty he receives for his bad behaviour. It's like Michael Schumacher in his prime, like, I know he got disqualified from 1997, but really though, Jack Villeneuve was never the same driver after that season, so he didn't mean anything. And he ended up becoming a 7-time champion, so... it all contributes to the diddly squat, really, all the penalties that Schumacher received over the years, because none of his competitors could actually take advantage of any mishaps or any pieces of sporting foul play he committed. And, we have to remember Hakkinen was only really a top driver for about 3 years. Damon for about 3 years. Jack Zhou for about a couple of years. Montoya didn't last very long. Kimi had to deal with mechanical failures at McLaren. And it was only, Alonso only really got into battle with Schumacher around like 2006, and that was it. And then, of course, Schumacher went and left Ferrari afterwards anyway, so even though Alonso beat him, but really, I don't think it made that much difference in the grand scheme of things. So, people watching. I mean, the thing with Lando Norris is that he's actually got a second chance, though, next year. A second chance will come his way, unlike, of course, who just lost a presidential election in America, because, thankfully, if one doesn't work on a 4-year cycle, like a football World Cup or a political election, there's an annual event. So Lando can do what Nico Rosberg did back in like 2015 to 16, get a driving coach, reset his sleeping schedule, optimize his diet, optimize everything he can humanly can to like get every advantage he can extract. It's not really anywhere near like Lando does have many chances, a few like another chance, surely. Abu Dhabi have undisclosed amount shares in the McLaren group. Wow, I think obviously I did hear quite a bit of news coming out of the McLaren camp after that Brazilian debacle, where I think a lot of people are not happy at McLaren, and Lando and Oscar will come under pressure, along with Zach and Andrea Stella, because that was so embarrassing what happened in Interlagos. And the worst thing is that Lando just kept asking for like driving tips from his engineer, which is reminded me of what Nico Rosberg was like back in 2014, like constantly panicking, asking for advice, especially in wet conditions, questionable racecraft. I mean, luckily for Lando, he is still only, 25 years old, so he's got time on his side. Like, Nico was having to, modify his approach and his driving style at the age of basically 30 just to compete against Lewis Hamilton. So at least age is on Lando Norris's side. Perez has only scored 48 points. Yeah, dude. I mean, we all know that Christian Horner doesn't want competition at Red Bull because he still scored over the time he had being in charge of Ricciardo and, of course, Verstappen in the same team together. And memories of course, Vettel and Mark Webber in the same team. He's just not feeling it. So, I don't know. It's like, and there's always the risk that, if he promotes Lawson or Colapinto too soon, he'll end up he'll repeat the same mistake as he did with Gasly and Alex Albon again. So it's actually quite a difficult situation Red Bull have found themselves in. It is really like, what do you do? What do you actually do with that Red Bull second seat? some fans took it too far. Well, I know there were, threats against Lando? I know there were some fans who actually started attacking Max's family members, and apparently even started making threats towards his Kenny Piquet's daughter, Penelope, who's obviously was Danny Kvyat. So it's like, it's not even like the worst thing is like with modern F1 and the media around it, with Drive to Survive and Liberty Media, is that they have to hype everything up just for the sake of getting attention. But in reality, we didn't. There was no This year was not a championship fight. Yeah, well, I suppose I am secretly French or Spanish. It's just, I don't know, maybe laziness, if you will, but yeah, obviously Perez has been dire, Albon has been struggling. There's no, like, you're not gonna even like get any resistance from me on those points. Well, I know they've been poor. There's not really much else to say, to be honest, anymore. I don't find it to be like a big topic of debate at this point. But we all know Perez will remain because Red Bull just don't really have any particularly great options at this point. They screwed up with Ricciardo. They couldn't persuade him to stay. They kicked Gasly and Albon out of the door, and now they're... And all they have left instead is Lawson, Tsunoda, and of course maybe Conor Pinto if they can sign a contract with him. And that's all she wrote really for Red Bull. They have dug their own grave with their second driver situation. I don't know why I'm getting so many spam messages right now. I think they may say... I'll tell you who's been like having a bad year though, I think. Well, who had a bad race more like. Carlos Sainz dropped it at turn, I don't know, was it turn 6 or something? Just randomly spun off in the way. A week after I praised him for his performance at, what was it? Mexico, he then goes and drops a stink at Brazil. So, in a sense, Ferrari are probably justified in getting rid of Carlos Sainz because that guy is not very consistent like I thought he was. And I don't think that Carlos Sainz can go any further in his F1 career in terms of progression at this point. George Russell, I thought, was absolutely excellent, though, despite obviously finishing 4th due to the red flag. He actually wanted to stay out and wait for the red flag instead of pitting. And had he stayed out, I think he might have had a chance of finishing 2nd. Because let's face it, Max Verstappen is just so much better than everyone else. The Bahrainian still owns the racing team, but the automotive side of McLaren is Abu Dhabi. I heard Qatar is throwing their hat in the ring when it comes to the shares of McLaren. That's going to be interesting. I mean, McLaren are basically a Middle Eastern consortium at this point, which is weird to think of. I mean, with Ron Dennis, they always made themselves look like this really British team, although not quite as much as Williams, where, of course, Frank and Claire Williams are, like, really, massive fans of Margaret Thatcher. The likes of Alonso and Hulkenberg are high, yeah. I actually agree with you now. Of course, I think the past 2 or 3 races have absolutely destroyed my opinion of Lando Norris's 2024 season now. Like, I'm not going to tell you where Lando Norris is, but Alonso and Hulkenberg have climbed the table, and Norris has slid down it quite dramatically. And let's face it, with a 62-point gap to Max, with only 86 points available, the viewing figures for the last 3 race weekends is going to be terrible at Abu Dhabi, Qatar, and of course Las Vegas. Like, I think we all know in our heart of hearts. Oh, Qatar's going to buy Sauber. Wait, what's going on in the Audi deal? Is Audi dropping out? Like, what's going on there with Audi? Russell is too erratic, yeah, but I think the thing with Russell is that whilst he can have a few stinkers here and there, he did know what to do in the conditions on Sunday. It was just that his team's insistence that he had to pit, what was it, before the red flag came out, costed him a podium and a potential race win, but of course, let's face it, Max was just so ridiculously quick and away once he had clear air. So really, I mean, Russell lost a potential 2nd place due to his team wanting to pit. And I think we got to, I mean, nonetheless, I think Russell was very good despite what happened. And he did lead about the first half of the race. Obviously, it was ridiculous what... hello there, Sari. Hope you're doing well. It was ridiculous when Lando came out and said George deserved to win the race. I think that's just sour grapes at that point. And it's... oh, my Lord. Lando Norris gave out the worst post-race interviews I've ever seen. Just sulking, crying. Oh, no. Oh, no. Horrible. Just really, really immature, really, from Lando Norris. Not taking responsibility. Because, you know, a mark of a top driver is someone who actually takes responsibility for their mistakes and errors. When he said, oh, it's not talent, it's luck, it's just like, who made those unforced errors in the wet? Who kept slipping off, going off wide at turn 2, 3, 4, whatever? Who the hell allowed the likes of Leclerc, Russell, and of course his own teammate Piastri to go past him? Like, it's you, Lando. Max, if you look at his onboard, drove almost perfectly. I mean, the only problems Max had was trying to overtake Ocon, Leclerc, and of course Piastri throughout the race, partly due to how big these cars are and the fact that even in a way, it's probably all going to be harder to overtake the cars than it was with the previous generations of cars back in, like, before, like, the Pirelli era and the bigger, wider car lengths and all that. Lando, though, if he doesn't take responsibility, then he's never going to become a world champion, because his driving technique and his ability to read conditions and make the right decisions in terms of pit stops, tyres, understand the regulations is so below par and insufficient for what's required at this level of motorsport. You know, the fact that he decided to keep his foot down at the start when there was a bunch of, not at the start, at the formation when there was a bunch of amber lights flashing, and Max stayed on the grid because he knew that you're not supposed to go, and of course, Lando got so lucky that they gave him like a, what was it, £5,000 fine or something. Yeah, that was a huge mistake by, I mean, let's be honest, if the FIA wanted to get real with Lando, then, to be honest, they should have forced him to have like a 5-second penalty. Hello there, Armin. Audi will be a title sponsor and they'll provide the engine. Oh, right, okay, so it's basically going to be like Qatar and Sauber that are on the team, and so it's not really going to be a factory deal at all. It's just going to be the engines and that title sponsorship, and that's it, Audi. That's very good to know. Yeah, I mean, the thing with Audi is obviously they're struggling in terms of their business right now with the Volkswagen group, so obviously they might not be that keen to invest in an F1 team, which is understandable. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. Gabriel Bortoletto is obviously will be making his F1 debut next season with the Sauber team. And of course, Bottas and Zhou, like I predicted over a month ago, will be departing. And frankly, it's not a surprise. Zhou has not been given updates for like basically half the season. A very telling sign that driver's going to leave is when the team gives up on them. And as for Bottas, his salary is far too expensive for the fact that the team are not can't score a single point right now, and he's just too expensive. It's like VW sold Bugatti to Rimac. Yeah, well, Bugatti's a luxury car brand. It's not like a mass production vehicle that they're selling at Bugatti. It's just, we'll see. Maybe 100 odd, I don't know, rich main businessmen buying their cars. That's it. It's not exactly mass production vehicles that they usually sell at Volkswagen, Audi, and Skoda. I wonder if it's on the VW chopping board. Well, yeah, well, if you're investing in a F1 team, then can't really afford to keep all these luxury car brands at the team anymore. Thank you for the 6 likes and all that. What was I talking about? Yeah. Lando Norris, I mean, the British media have been hyping Lando Norris up for the whole season. But really, though, a driver like Max Verstappen is just so good by his own merits. Despite his own team, Red Bull being in major turmoil, Newey and Wheatley departing the team, Horner having the allegations posed at him, just like Donald Trump in America, funnily enough. And yeah, Max is like, yeah, I'm gonna literally show everyone who's boss. I don't care what you think of me. And it's ominous. It's ominous. It's not really like, even if a Max gets a DNF at Las Vegas and Norris wins, I still can't see Norris in the championship fight anymore. It's just like, because eventually we'll get to Qatar, and then Max will probably be back on track. He'll probably score enough points to win the championship anyway, regardless of what happens now. So McLaren want to throw money, get George Russell. That's interesting. I don't know what. Yeah, I've been saying get George Russell, but of course, the thing with Mercedes is that he is their lead driver now. So, like, why would George want to leave a team like Mercedes when he's got everything he wants at Mercedes, more or less? Whilst at McLaren, like, there's no one knows whether he's going to end up with, like, Norris or Piastri as a teammate. And, like, it's basically their team, if you think about it, since they know everyone there. And Russell has already spent, like, 4 years at Mercedes, so I don't think he will want to start again, especially if next year's Mercedes is actually a good car. Then he'll probably be persuaded to stay. And apparently, the way Zach Brown and Andrea Stella managed the team, it's just, is it really like like a lot of people are not impressed by the way Zach Brown and Andrea Stella manage McLaren, and of course the pit strategies they have with Randy Singh. Is it really a place that drivers want to go to, despite having such a fast car? Like, you can have a great package, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win the Drivers' Championship. I know Williams used to have this problem all the time back in the 80s and 90s. They've been all missing out on the championship. Alan Jones and Collins Reutemann getting each other's way one year. Nigel Mansell and Nelson Piquet losing each other the 1986 title. Sainz Senior, that was Carlos Sainz Senior got to do with Lewis going to Ferrari, apart from the fact that his son ended up getting dropped? Like, has there been an argument somewhere? Like, I want you to clarify what you're talking about Sainz and Ferrari, because I'm not like totally sure. I mean, I think the only seat that's now up for speculation has got to be the second Red Bull seat, and maybe what happens at the second junior RB team, with, of course, Tsunoda being, I don't know, some people thinking that Tsunoda could get dropped to make way for Colapinto and Lawson as a driver pairing instead, since, I mean, let's face it, there's no pathway to the second Red Bull seat for Tsunoda because of, he's too inconsistent. And if anything, it feels like what's going to happen next year in 2025 is now more of a topic than what's going on this year now, because, okay, we've still got the Constructor's title to decide, since, of course, I think, how many points did Ferrari score? I think Ferrari, did he finish, they got 10 points with Leclerc, and then, of course, Norris and Piastri got like 12 points, but they don't. I mean, the problem with McLaren is that I don't know whether they can really get the job done for the Constructors' title, because you don't know which version of Norris and Piastri will turn up every weekend, and Leclerc and Sainz have come clutch recently, so... Am I secretly Steve Buscemi? Look, Moody, I don't care about the fact Kamala lost. I'm just making a comparison between an F1 driver and Kamala Harris, but it's like, they both screwed up in their own way. That's what I'm trying to say, in a way that if their supporters don't realise what they did wrong, then they are doomed to failure. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't care about the fact Kamala lost. In fact, she actually deserved to lose on the basis of running a rubbish campaign where she did no interviews, she did no publicity stunts. Like, apart from doing her usual speeches at a Democratic convention, she just kept disappearing all the time, and she was just so boring in a way that, yeah, whatever, you deserve to lose. And guess what? I was called mean and vapid for criticising Lando Norris for saying that he was basically drove like a glorified charity shop worker, giving away positions, and he won't win a championship as long as taxes exist outside of Monaco, because he's just makes so many mistakes, and I don't really want to hear any more excuses from his fans or whatever, and to sit there and talk about Max Verstappen, because it's not really relevant to what they did wrong at this point. It's like, take some responsibility for your own poor driving. It was Carlos Senior that tipped Total that, oh right, he total wolf that Lewis Hamilton was going to Ferrari. Okay, thank you. Yeah, Asian Steve Buscemi. I never thought I'd be getting compared to him. Is my voice that similar to him? The world is a weird place. I mean, Total Wolf was obviously angry when he heard Hamilton's off to, what was it, Ferrari. But then, of course, we all know Lewis Hamilton just knows that Mercedes are not going to be challenging for titles next year, and certainly not this season when he tested the new Mercedes in the simulator. So he thought, why not get the bag at Ferrari and go out doing some driving for a team I've always wanted to drive for, but never could, because obviously Mercedes have always given me a better car than what Ferrari can provide, the likes of Vettel, Kimi, Alonso, Leclerc, and Sainz. And now that Lewis has passed his best, he doesn't really care anymore. I mean, Lando, thankfully, actually has a second chance of winning a World Championship next year, as long as McLaren produce a fast car again. But frankly, if he screws up next year again, then I think Piastri is going to easily end up being number one. If Piastri, obviously, can improve his qualifying speed, if. So, okay, yeah, unlike the other person I've been talking about, there is a second chance for Lando, but he's got to change his approach altogether, because otherwise, if he comes out blaming bad luck for why he never won a world championship, then I'm just going to literally I'm just going to take the rip out of him, because Hamilton has only had one top 5 finish in the last 7 races. You are correct. I mean, there could be, I think when Vettel left Ferrari, obviously Ferrari just decided to give him a worse car compared to what Leclerc had. And some suspect the same could be happening at Mercedes in regards to Russell being given better equipment, so that they could, show the sponsors that the better driver is staying at the team. I don't know whether, I mean, let's be honest, before we know, Hamilton could regain his form next year at Ferrari. Because let's face it, I don't think, when these sort of situations happen where a driver leaves a team, you don't want them to be leaving the team on a high, because then everyone will question whether you made the right decision for them to leave you or for you to remove them. I mean, with Ferrari, well, they kind of got lucky with Carlos Sainz, because Carlos Sainz won at Mexico and then he'd been there at Brazil, so it's like proof that Carlos Sainz is not that particularly consistent, if we're going to be honest. He can only drive the car in a certain condition, and then he's pretty average when it's not in a good condition, so that's not really good enough. That's just weird. I don't know why I'm getting so many weird comments tonight. McLaren fans, well, yeah, he's got a lot of speed, but he doesn't have any race management. That's the problem. Now that's what separates the great drivers from the very good drivers, is that the great drivers know how to manage a race. They know the strategic side. They won't make silly daft errors like, I don't know, overshooting corners or failing to react to restarts. And they know how to drive it away as well. So the thing is, I think Max Verstappen definitely has flaws in him, but Lando's not even giving himself an opportunity to try and exploit Max's hot-headedness at all. And then he gets really upset when like Max tries to shove him off the road and says, I just want a clean fight, but Max Verstappen is not a clean driver, so you're gonna have to accept what Max Verstappen is. There's no point crying about it. Yes, that's what I was talking about. I don't know what's happened to YouTube recently. Like, there's been so many weird comments appearing on my videos, and I don't know, bots in a chat. I don't know what's going on. Like, what's happened to their platform over the past few years? I mean, at least Twitter, or X as they call it now, has actually improved under Elon Musk in that a lot of bots have actually disappeared recently, surprisingly enough. Not so for YouTube. I wonder what Say has to say about the McLaren pairing. He's probably going to troll us all. Like, I think Say just likes to troll people for fun. I think he knows deep down he's been really poor, to be honest, this year. At this point, like, they only just about make my top 10 at this point. It's really quite alarming how many points they've thrown away. McLaren should be on the verge of ceding the Constructors' title in Las Vegas if they had a proper driving pairing and oh yeah, how can I forget? Randy Singh, their race strategist, is just so bad as well. He's basically the McLaren version of Anaki Rueda, just so clueless all the time. McLaren have got problems. They have got to be the team most under pressure next season because they pretty much have lost the driver's title. They're still under pressure from Ferrari in the Constructors' title when they should be nowhere near under pressure. And next season is probably going to be a legacy-defining season for both Norris and Piastri, because I think if neither of them can win a driver's title, or at least take a driver's title to the final race of next year or whatever, I think a lot of teams' opinions of both drivers is just going to drop, and I think Zach Brown and Andrea Stella are going to have to really reconsider their options when it comes to their drivers real soon. And I think they'll probably start having interviews with other drivers around the grid. Way too many bots appearing. What's this Martian food? It's lentils, fish, and vegetables and rice. I don't know whether it tickles your fancy. My God. I mean, when Lando Norris won his first ever race at Miami, he just came out and said, oh yeah, I want to win, but I also want to party more, which is just like, You know, if you're happy winning 3 races in your career, yeah, fine, but don't come crying to us if you end up failing to win a championship because of that mental approach. Because all he's going to set himself up for is to have a similar career to someone like Barrichello, Coulthard, you know, good drivers, but not great drivers. And ultimately, ones that didn't truly maximize everything they had, particularly Barrichello, by the way. And then, of course, whenever I hear them moan about something, I'm just like, I think you're trying to avoid responsibility, basically deflect your own personal wrongdoings onto something else. I mean, it's just amazing how quickly one race can just really open people's eyes up to their perception of a certain driver and really dramatically flip their opinions on a driver's shortcoming. Because that's what happened to Lando Norris, and I think Lando needs to realise, yeah, if he wants to be serious about becoming a world champion, then he should start taking other people's advice, because I know there were some people on Twitter saying that I was being mean and vapid, but don't let Lando Norris's nice guy persona fool you. It's like, it's just his way of trying to deflect responsibility and wanting people to pity him all the time. Like, he has to take responsibility for his own failings. We can't drive the car for him. McLaren can't drive the car for him. He's the one who's singing the car. So, and if he has any like concerns with like setup, strategy, and all that, he's got to speak up and start addressing these issues and stop like, he has to find a way of addressing his anxiety and nerves when it comes to the pressure. Because the number of times he's just lost positions throughout a start or restart is really just, I don't get it. I mean, it's like, Zach has fired a lot of people in IndyCar so he can be stern when it needed. I really do wonder what is going on at McLaren, but the thing with Formula One is that we have an absolute superstar in Max Verstappen, and nothing less of 100% effort and in concentration and all the rest of it. You need everything you can utilize in order to be able to fight Max Verstappen, and even then, you still might not have any chance of winning. he's been patient with F1 drivers, but he's not been so in IndyCar. I don't know. I don't watch IndyCar racing, but I'll take your word for it. Problem with Lando Norris is that he could well turn himself into the next Daniel Ricciardo if he's not careful, where he just keeps relying on his PR department to make excuses for him. You know, play up his old nice guy persona whilst making the same mistakes on track and not really being like totally with it and 100% concentrated on what he's doing. And, you know, in a few years' time, we could be seeing Lando Norris give the same sort of post-race press conference that Ricciardo did after Singapore, where he has a tear in his eye. He's like, I've had a good ride, but I don't know if I'm ever going to drive in F1 again, because someone, whether it's McLaren or another team, might turn around to say to Norris, we don't really want you around anymore. And the thing with Norris is that I think obviously, like most drivers, is that I think at some point you do want to win a world championship, but most drivers don't get a chance to, like, more than one or two chances to win a championship. They don't end, very rarely do they end up in a position like Kimi Raikkonen or Fernando Alonso or Vettel or Hamilton, where they have multiple chances of becoming a world champion. Jenson Button only had one world championship opportunity and he took it with both hands. Rosberg did it at the end of 2016, but he had like 3 bites of the cherry. For all we know, in 2026, McLaren could be off the pace again, and then Norris doesn't really ever threaten for a championship again. So these opportunities don't come around very often. Villeneuve only had 2 chances of becoming a champion, and he took in 97. So, you know, whatever you think of Jacques Villeneuve, he got the job done when it mattered most. Albeit thanks to a Michael Schumacher brain fade moment. Yeah, but of course it depends what happens to Bottas at Sauber and what, I don't know, what people think of Colapinto in a year's time. And maybe what if Russell becomes available, if, let's just say, Russell falls out with Mercedes and it becomes clear that Mercedes want to become team Kimi Antonelli in the future, then yeah, they could come under a lot of pressure. So this is a thing. I do like to support underdogs, but I can't support an underdog if they're not really putting full effort and commitment in what they're doing. Like, it's all well and good being an underdog, but you have got to be trying everything you can to get the job done. Like, you can't just be there full of memes, full of good vibes, you know, constantly cracking jokes if you don't actually get the job done, or at least get as close as you humanly can to the opposition. I'm just very disappointed in Lando Norris. I'm just very underwhelmed, very sad. I don't even know what to say. It just feels like we could have had a great barnstorming into the season, but yet Max is now on the verge of making it 4 in a row at Las Vegas, and the TV viewing figures are going to be really bad, especially with the race being held at like 10 o'clock local time in America. No, not America, Las Vegas. The East Coast is going to be like 10 o'clock. So, not East Coast, West Coast, I beg your pardon, near California. So, it's going to be early morning in Britain and Europe when the race is on. So, viewing figures will naturally drop for that. And I don't know what the Asian fans think. I mean, it'll be daytime. Daytime for the Asian fans, it'll be fantastic. And of course, for the Australians, I mean, it's going to be like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So yeah, I mean, as for the east coast of America, it's going to be like 1 o'clock in the morning. And then, of course, in Argentina and Brazil, where we've just had a race, I mean, it's going to be 3 o'clock in the morning. So, dear God, I mean, Liberty Media, I think, even though they tried to let Norris off the hook with, what was it, Max's penalty in a sprint race where he got alongside Piastri when the VSC ended and he decided to dock him 5 seconds and dropped him behind Leclerc. They're definitely annoyed and irritated as well, because what motivation do people have to want to watch Las Vegas now that the championship is almost over? Like, and it's not even a particularly great racetrack. It's just a car park. It's just another Caesar's Palace, like we saw in the early 80s. Yeah, you know I'm not the best at time zones and all that well by now, so thank you for telling me that. I mean, I think a lot of people, if they've been out during Saturday night and they're hungover, they're going to be fast asleep during the Las Vegas race, and that desire and motivation to actually watch the race is going to decrease so much now because of what the championship is. Same for people in Central Europe. And of course, what's it? Most of America's probably. I mean, I don't even know why Las Vegas is on the calendar. Like, on the viewing figures even that good for Las Vegas? I mean, it's really hot. I mean, how much money do they make out of the event? That's surely the only real deciding factor into whether Las Vegas is a real success. Like, I get they want to have a race on the west coast of America, but to host it that late at night, it's just all very baffling and confusing. I'm just very confused, and of course, it's going to be a Saturday night event, so I don't know what people at Liberty Media are thinking anymore. Yeah, I hate the fact that those last 3 places are the free championship. Oh, right, yeah, I know the Jack Villeneuve documentary about how he won the championship. Apparently, after he collided with Schumacher, an electrical cable was literally being held together by a thread, and he was very smart in avoiding the bollards, the curbs, and all that, because he knew that if anything got dislodged, then his car would have stopped out on track and he would have lost the championship. Although, of course, Schumacher was disqualified by the FIA post race, so for all we know, Villeneuve could have well have been handed the world championship in a court of arbitration, which would have been highly controversial, but thankfully for Jack, he got to the finish line in 3rd place and he won the championship, so there was no debates anyway. It's not like 1994 where Schumacher tagged Damon Hill. Damon Hill was a point behind, but because Damon Hill's car sustained too much damage from the collision, he was forced to retire from the race, and he ended up losing the championship because Williams refused to appeal a complaint against Michael Schumacher's behaviour at Adelaide. So, well, in the end, it just feels like divine justice made sense, because obviously Damon Hill became a champion in '96 anyway, so it barely even mattered by that point. Cheers, C-Wag. I hope you're having a good day. I do remember watching Peter Solberg win the 2003 World Rally Championship. I think obviously that was the year when Richard Burns suddenly collapsed behind the wheel and never recovered from, later passed away 2 years later of astrocytoma, a brain tumor. Sebastian Loeb missed out on the championship at one point, but then of course he ended up going on to win 9 championships. And of course, we have to remember, Jules Villeneuve never became a world champion, but his son, Jacques, became Canada's first world champion, so swings and roundabouts. Obviously, Qatar's been postponed because obviously the humidity that the drivers faced at the Qatari Grand Prix last year in October was way too unbearable. And let's face it, I don't want any of these 3 races on the calendar at all anyway, but money talks, cash is king. And with the championship basically over, I mean, it feels like the season's already finished already. And if you go on other YouTube channels like Aidan Millward, Law VS, Tomo, or that P1 channel ran by those 2 clowns, yeah, they're all talking about 2025 now. Everyone's given up on this season. Credit to Max Verstappen, he drove brilliantly well in the second half of the race, but what an anticlimax for the season. I mean, I suppose if you're like a McLaren fan who's going to celebrate McLaren winning the Constructors, then maybe you're going to celebrate that, but I think it's safe to say the media care far more about the driver's title than the Constructors, because I mean, Ferrari won the Constructors' title in 2008, but obviously the whole team was sad when they saw Lewis Hamilton overtake Timo Glock before the line. It will be an awkward sight seeing Lando and Oscar being forced to celebrate in Abu Dhabi if McLaren do clinch the Constructors. To be honest, most people are not that big a fan of P1 Motorsport, that's all I'm saying. Apparently some weird behaviour they've been getting up to in their spare time is been catching attention. I don't want to go through it, but cheers everyone in the chat for complimenting my food. Only a 5-race contract? My God, what Alpine gonna do then if he sucks? If Jack Dowen only has a 5-race contract at Alpine next season and he doesn't, I mean, I suppose they really are not that sort of his driving ability then. If he fails, then who are they gonna replace him with? Blind me, that's a real worry for Alpine, because Victor Martins? I mean, it's not good news for Victor Martins because they clearly decided to choose Zhou over Martins, so looks like Pierre Gasly is going to be Alpine's main man for the next 2 seasons, and hopefully the money they save through getting rid of their engine program can actually go into improving the car and giving Gasly a good car to drive, because I don't know where Alpine is going. I know obviously they got an amazing result at Brazil, but don't know what's going to happen at that team anymore. I have no idea. It doesn't look particularly exciting or promising, if I'm going to be honest. I know they found some stability under their new team principal, Ollie Oakes, but are they really in contention to actually improve properly from now on? I don't know. Oh, Briatore wants to get Bottas or Colapinto. Oh, Briatore's now gunning for those 2 kids. Colapinto's got a contract at Audi, so he's not getting him, so it's got to be Colapinto if he wants him. If that was Flavio Briatore who signed that 5-race deal with Jack Dowen, then he's actually once again a very smart man, because I haven't seen any reports that suggest Jack Dowen is like a particularly good driver. Like, he was okay in Formula 2, but it's not like anyone really thought he was amazingly good. And I think if Jack Dowen has a poor start, he's out of the door, and then of course Colapinto will probably take the seat, and of course Dowen, he's under huge pressure already now, isn't he? Huge pressure from the word go. And of course, Pierre Gasly is not going to be the most forgiving teammate ever, because Gasly only has so many years left in his F1 career himself. So, and of course, I think Gasly would obviously snap up the chance to go to a team like Mercedes, Ferrari, Aston Martin if it appeared. So, because I mean, next year Gasly's going to be 29 years old, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's only like 5 or 6 years left in Gasly's career. So if a top team comes calling, he's going to be offered a first opportunity, and well, that'd be the right thing for him to do. Join the top team. Yeah, Jack Dowen doesn't exactly scream future world champion to me, Will. I agree. I'm just a bit. I was actually surprised when he announced Dowen. I was just like, wow, are they really struggling for choices right now? Are they that? I mean, obviously, I know they have a driver academy, so they want to be seen as promoting youth, but it just felt like it was an easy choice, and they only did it quickly because they lost Piastri 2 years ago when they announced him, and then Piastri turned around and said, no, I have not signed a contract with a team for next season, and I'm actually going to be joining McLaren instead. So, you know, Mark Webber and Piastri did an absolute number of Alpine. This time, they decided to get the deal done with Dowen ASAP, which is a smart move, but you could say, I don't know what role Briatore really has in the team other than being an advisor, but if Briatore was in charge of driver contracts, then if it really was him who signed a contract, then whoever signed the contract at Alpine has probably done a very smart thing to just to give him a 5-race deal, because I don't know, it could turn out either way with Dowen. It could be good, or it could be pretty mediocre, like we see with Sargeant, Latifi, Mazepin, and whatever. Yeah, well, Briatore does have a very, very sharp eye for these sort of things. Like, I mean, this is the weird thing about Briatore, is that the guy never had any interest in motor racing when he took over as Benetton team principal back in 1989. But yet, he very quickly made the team more competitive. He knew the engineers that the team should sign. He successfully snatched Michael Schumacher away from Eddie Jordan at the right moment. And within 5 years, the team won their first driver's title, and then a year later, they won the Constructor's title. And then he repeated the same success all over again 10 years later with Fernando Alonso, when, of course, Renault took over the team. So, Briatore is a man I trust, to be honest, when it comes to these sort of decisions, because he's just so good at it. He's like Adrian Newey when it comes to car design. No matter what generation of drivers or cars we're in, he's always going to make the right decision. He's one of the best men in the business. Sorry, I was just getting a signal there from someone. Yeah. Oh, I mean, that's why they brought Briatore back, isn't it? Obviously, he works in a remote position nowadays since he's now like 74 years old, but he's a wise old fox. And he's a successful businessman for a reason when it comes to the real world. So, whatever you think of Briatore as a person and whatnot, yeah, he will probably get a deal done with Colin Pinto really quickly as well. Like, he just gets things done so quickly. So, yeah, of course, we have to remember this is the same team Enstone who entered F1 as tournament back in 1981. So, I think a lot of people that are still working at Alpine, but I've been working there since, like, I don't know, 2002 or whatever, when they were called Renault. Can trust him instinctively. Hello there, Nabs. Briatore is brought back to help the CEO of Renault to sell the team, in my opinion. That's why they closed Vries Chatillon, the engine department. Yes, that's absolutely correct. I think they realised that the engine program is a real drain on the team's resources. It's not getting anywhere near close to producing the best engine in the sport. And that money would be best spent on leasing an engine and, of course, improving the car in the meantime. So, obviously, a lot of Renault workers are very angry at Briatore, but the guy's a businessman, first and foremost. And he's won multiple championships. Even, I know that he's not, the thing is, he doesn't really care what you think of him. That's the other thing. That's probably what's made him very successful. He is pretty ruthless when it matters most. And we all know what sort of sport Formula One is. It's not a kumbaya group. It's been called a Piranha Club for a reason. There's even books written about the F1 Piranha Club over the years, with like the dealings between Frank Williams, Ron Dennis, John Todd, you name it, Eddie Jordan, Paul Stoddard when he was in charge of Minardi, Tom Walkinshaw and how he fell foul of the Piranha Club and how Arrows collapsed, Bannon Prost struggling, the trials and tribulations of Jaguar when he had the likes of Niki Lauda, Bobby Rahal, and some other people I've forgotten now. That Dave Richards guy at BAR Honda, Nick Fry, yeah. I think I've named a lot of names there. Ken Tyrrell. everyone's changed a lot since Briatore. I mean, look, he's not in charge of car development or anything like that. The only thing he can do is like give them the best business advice at this point. But obviously, when like it's up to the design team to actually bring the performance levels back. And Briatore is just there to try and help them organize themselves and make the best business decisions. And that's it. That's it. Just make the best business decisions, and that's it. He's never been like, look, he's not like a design genius like Colin Chapman or Adrian Newey or Rory Byrne or anything like that. He's just very good at organizing things and getting the best commercial deals. That's it. But obviously, there clearly has been something of a brief upswing in performance since he returned at a halfway stage at the Spanish Grand Prix. Like, he's just one of those people where success always seems to follow him around. Regardless of what you think of him, he's just that guy. Getting some really strange comments again. Don't know what's happening. Looks like I've angered a lot of McLaren fans. Yeah, well, probably angered Lando fans more than anything else because they're getting angry saying that they've never seen a driver get criticised as much as Lando Norris, but oh my god, this has been way worse than Vettel's championship campaigns back in 2017 and 18 with Ferrari. Or back when, obviously, David Hill lost the championship in 1995, where he made loads of strategic errors and also had reliability issues to compound their problems. I mean, Norris has had, from my point of view, a very reliable car. Okay, there's been a few strategic errors here and there, but Hill or Sebastian Vettel bottled this number of points like Norris did this season. And to be honest, it's like, honestly, if Norris repeats this performance again next year, then I think everyone's going to give up on him. He's honestly only realistically got one more chance at most, and if he doesn't run Max close next year and take him to like, I don't know, the last race of the season, or maybe the penultimate race of next year, he doesn't get any more than like 3 or 4 wins like he's done this year, then he's gonna be in serious trouble. In serious trouble, to be honest. I mean, it's more Norris fans than anything, because I think there's a lot of Lando Norris and his PR campaign has already. That's what I'm saying. Like, Ferrari had a huge in causing Sebastian Vettel to lose a championship back in 2017 and 18. But this season, I mean, Norris has really, really been his own worst enemy at times. Like, and you cannot actually attribute Lando's downfall to the team as much as Vettel or maybe David Hill. that obviously, being a Kimi Raikkonen fan, I was very well aware of what was going on at Ferrari, and I do feel sorry for Sebastian Vettel fans in that regard, because a lot of what happened was not necessarily Vettel's fault, despite the fact he did spin a lot. Yeah, I mean, he crashed out a few times, but his team were just adding even more unnecessary pressure and stress on him. And, well, the thing with Vettel is that we all know Vettel liked a stable rear axle and whatnot. And if you don't give him that sort of car, then what are you doing? And for some reason, it seemed like Ferrari forgot about some basic things that everyone knows about Sebastian Vettel. I don't think I've ever heard Vettel or like David Hill or anyone for that matter give out so many bafflingly poor press conferences like we've done with Lando Norris recently, where it's just, I don't know what inspired him to say it's not talent, it's just luck, when Max ended up winning by 20 seconds, which is, and he was setting fastest lap after fastest lap like there was no tomorrow. It just gives you an insight into the psychology of the kid, that he doesn't really like taking responsibility when he fails. Say what you want about Max Verstappen, but Max Verstappen did everything right on Sunday. Recognised that he wasn't supposed to leave the grid when the amber lights were flashing. Always made sure he aced the restart. Overtook cars when the gaps appeared. Made moves down the outside of turn 3. It's like, he did everything perfectly on Sunday. Like, arguably one of the very best drives of his whole career. Like, after a week of being given stick by the media for his antics at Mexico and having apparently reported comments about people like saying things about his family on a personal level, saying that you can criticize me all you want, but please don't go after my mom, dad, sister, girlfriend, and whatnot. Because, yeah, that was way too far. Like, and I think there are a few Lando fans that just don't seem to realise that their driver is seriously making his own life very hard for no reason. And that their driver might actually have an attitude problem deep down. And because even drivers like Kimi Raikkonen, who have been criticised for being lazy, like, Kimi was never this negligent when it came to like spotting details and doing the right things at the right time. Certainly not Jenson Button, and certainly not even other drivers who lost championships like Mark Webber or even Felipe Massa. I mean, obviously, Barrichello made quite a few excuses in his career, hence why he never became a champion. David Coulthard was a bit... I think David Coulthard just couldn't quite get everything together at the right moment. And of course, Coulthard had to fight Schumacher and Hackett at the same time, so obviously, unfortunately, he was just completely outgunned. Yeah, Germany was the only time Vettel DNF'd in 2018, but of course, as we know, hitting Bottas at the start at France, and then all the spins he had, like colliding with Hamilton at Italy, colliding with Ricciardo at America, then of course that collision with Verstappen. It's like, I think obviously, let's be honest, Hamilton, I think, had deserved to win the championship in 2018, but it did seem like, the premature passing of Sergio Macchioni completely messed with a lot of people's heads at Ferrari. And then, of course, Mauricio Arriva-Bene, and of course, the new upgrades that they tried to put on a car from Singapore onwards was just a disaster. So, yeah, obviously Vettel was not 100% innocent, but obviously, as we all know, a team like Ferrari, with obviously the distraction of Charles Leclerc's progress at Sauber, it just seems to be a team that we all know is not organised. They get distracted by politics. They just... And then, of course, we have to remember Inaki Rueda, their chief strategist. I don't even want to go through it with him. I just get bloody flashbacks like a military veteran knows. It's just the number of hilariously bad pit stops that... Yeah. And let's face it, nobody obviously did Hamilton drive well, but his team... Mercedes were just far more organised, just better organised. And of course, no driver can realistically win the World Championship without a good car and without a really strong team behind him. So, even Alonso couldn't do it with Ferrari. So, what does that tell you? And yeah, that's what I've been saying, People say that we've been mean and vapid in our criticisms of Lando Norris, but at times he just starts talking like a 12-year-old, saying it's not talent, it's luck. It's like, what sort of way of talking is that? I don't want to support a driver like that. Even if you're an underdog who's doing an amazing job, I mean, if you start saying things like that, then you're just talking like a sore loser. It's not a case of, he feels like a sore loser. It is a case of he is a sore loser. He objectively is a sore loser. It's not about feelings at this point. It's about he actually is a loser. He just objectively is. And he said it 3 times to 3 different publications, just the same answer to BBC, Sky, I don't know, Dutch TV, German TV, American ESPN, or whoever the hell does F1 coverage in America, same answers to everyone. It's just wow, you really are out here feeling sorry for yourself. I know it sounds rude to say it, but please get a grip, Lando. Get a grip, man. You're nearly 25 years old. Are you really this childish? And he could easily end up becoming the next Daniel Ricciardo if he's not careful, so... I don't know. I mean, I've already got it. I've already got very deep in my criticism of Lando Norris. I mean, I had to kind of apologise on Twitter for calling him a glorified charity shop worker, giving away positions like he did, and of course, he'll say things like he'll never win a championship as long as taxes exist outside of Monaco. But I've said far worse things about Sebastian Vettel 6 years ago when he was spinning out, and I had to pull up in the sight of having Kimi Räikkönen be a number 2 to him because obviously Kimi being 39 years old and the fact that I knew Kimi was going to retire soon, it just made it very painful to see Kimi having to give up race wins to Vettel at Monaco and Hungary the year before. So it was like, oh. I mean, don't you worry. I have forgiven Sebastian Vettel since, but yeah, it just wasn't very fun to watch. Having actually had a favourite driver to support who was driving alongside Vettel. I mean, obviously, I know I've consistently criticised Alonso over the years just for his general approach and his different difficulties dealing with team management and the problems it's caused because of that. I've also had a chip at the likes of Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton at various points. Roman Grosjean for making all the mistakes he's had. Lance Stroll for the most obvious reasons possible. I actually agree that Daniel Ricciardo, the best version of Daniel Ricciardo, is actually better than the best version of Norris, which is really quite worrying to think about because I don't even know what to say. I mean, the thing with Ricciardo is that in terms of raw speed, I think he's slower than Norris, but his racecraft is at his peak in Red Bull was way better than what Norris has got, and I think you could argue Lando Norris could actually have an even steeper mountain to climb in terms of getting anywhere near close to being a complete driver than what Nico Rosberg had over a decade ago when he was at Mercedes fighting Lewis Hamilton for the championship. I think the problem with Oscar Piastri is that Oscar Piastri is not very quick in qualifying. That is a real worry now. I mean, he looked like he was close to Norris's qualifying pace when he first appeared 18 months ago, but he's not really improved that much since, and that's just really bad. I don't think Piastri's got poor racecraft. I just think he's just very slow on a qualifying lap, and that's just, if he can't fix that, then he's almost certainly never going to have a chance at fighting for a championship. So he's also under massive pressure. I mean, he was very good at Hungary, and of course, he did a great job at fighting off Leclerc at Azerbaijan, but that lack of speed throughout the season is actually deeply worrying, because if there's one thing you cannot fix about a driver is that if they're really slow, then they're basically going to end up becoming like Sergio Perez or, I don't know, Ricciardo to some extent, in that the ceiling for their potential is always going to be fairly average at best. And they're going to be relying upon other drivers to be crashing out, making mistakes, and all that, just to have any sort of success in the sport. So, yeah, I am really worried about Oscar Piastri now, because I don't know. I'm beginning to doubt whether Oscar Piastri actually has a high ceiling at all. So, yeah, deep, real problems for everyone at McLaren and their drivers involved. But like I said, Norris does have a second chance, unlike some people who have lost their seats, Ricciardo, Bottas, and many other drivers who only ever had one chance of winning a title, like Eddie Irvine. and Felipe Massa, they never got to go again. So as long as the hierarchy remains the same, Norris will get one more chance at least. But if he fails again like he's done this year, then I am not going to feel sorry for him. And I don't care how much his fans cry about it. Oh, because he's such a nice guy and he makes funny memes and all that. I don't care, mate. I don't care. I'm an old school F1 fan. Like, my favourite driver of all time in Kimi, he just made jokes on a whim. Like, he just cracked it out whenever he felt like it. It was never, like, something he did on, like, for the sake of his PR image or anything like that. It just rolled out naturally for him. But most of all, I was a fan of his driving above everything else. So, yeah, I don't have a lot of time and patience left now. Yeah, thank you, Joe King. What fork is that? Oh, it's a steel fork, my friend. Yeah, thank you, Joe. Hello there, Super Short. Hope you're doing well this evening here at Crystal Racing. I've only got a few minutes left of this stream because it is very late now, and I know some people are probably going to be off doing something else. Obviously, I've been talking about how Lando Norris has just completely let himself down this season. Because, you know, I know people feel sorry for him, but honestly, I'm actually a bit cheesed off at him now with the way he spoke in a post-race press conference. So, not impressed, I'm afraid. Yep. Thank you very much, Super Short. Four punches. I don't remember if Kimi ever had 4 punches. Did that ever happen to Kimi? I know he had a lot of mechanical failures, but did he ever? I mean, if you have 4 punches, then you're going to be stuck on a Okay, I suppose you're joking there, mate, but Kimi's one-line wonders, always a funny one. But the best thing about Kimi is that his funny moments were completely off the cuff. Like, there was none of this attempt to like really try and make the audience laugh like we saw with Daniel Ricciardo. Like, I think Ricciardo got a bit too carried away with being labelled a comedian, and he really believed he was actually funny, which is a bit, I don't know, that was a bit of a head scratcher for me. Like, oh dear, there's you listening to the hype machine rather than just doing your own thing. Don't get me wrong, I really like Dan Ricciardo as a driver and to some extent as a person, but his career ended on a whimper, so I hope the way Dan Ricciardo has left the sport, I hope it serves as a massive reminder a massive warning to most young drivers on the grid that if you believe your hype, you could be in serious danger of completely messing up your career and not giving 100%, because that's unfortunately what happened to Dan Ricciardo. Hello there, Arvid. Danny was an amazing driver until he rear-ended Max a second time. Maldonado was never that good a driver. Like, he was quick, but he had zero racecraft. That's his problem. Absolutely zero awareness. Just, I don't even know what to say about Pastor Maldonado. He could have actually been good, but he's a bit like Lance Stroll in that he doesn't even seem to be willing to even listen to other people, or like change his driving style, change his approach, and all that. Just there for a ride, and it's just sort of, I think Maldonado was just too deluded to realise what needed to be done to become good. Kimi drove through the smoke at 2002 Belgian qualifying. Yes, he did. I remember that moment very well because I was watching him in front of the TV as a kid. And I was just gobsmacked. I was like, he just kept his foot down in Olivier Panis's Honda smoke. I know he was given the all clear by his engineer to keep his foot flat and there was no yellow flags, but wow, that indeed means a Kimi Raikkonen back then. That made me a Kimi Raikkonen fan because I thought he doesn't care about what other people think. Like, he is just going to do his own thing. And then, of course, he went and qualified second at the Spa-Francorchamps qualifying session in 2002, back when Ferrari were dominating that year. So he was like, yeah, he was about 4 tenths slower than Schumacher, but he got in front of Barrichello. I mean, it was his days of thunder moment. Yeah, loved it. Danny could have been. I mean, the thing I say with Ricciardo is that because of his racecraft and his ability to take advantage of other people's problems between 14 and 18 when he was at Red Bull, that he could have carried that sort of driving style with him into like the 2021 season when Hamilton and Verstappen were throwing away points, crashing into each other, causing each other problems, all sorts of issues between the two. And Ricciardo could have cleaned up races like Baku, Silverstone, Hungary, Saudi Arabia, perhaps, Monza, Brazil had, I don't know, Verstappen got given a penalty or something crazy. You know what I mean? It's just like, I'm not saying he would have been a slam dunk champion, no, but I'm just saying, like, obviously in a clean season where Verstappen and Hamilton make no mistakes, make no crashes, stay trouble free, then yeah, Hamilton and Verstappen would finish miles ahead of Ricciardo, but 2021 was anything but clean. It was quite a dirty fight. 44-46. Valentino Rossi. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there at last. I'm fed up. I mean, I know it's just a few people just appeared just now, so I don't want to do what I did on Sunday and just keep extending the stream for the sake of it. Thank you and good night here from Crystal Racing.